Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca.meisl here, back on the Spiritualist. I'm so excited to actually do a solo podcast today. I haven't recorded one of these in quite a few months and quite a bit of time. And there's been a lot of reasons behind that, but I was really feeling called to do a recording today, do a podcast all about what's been going on recently in my journey and talk about some wonderful topics that I've been really called to speak about, especially around dreams, especially around going forward and not holding back from really pursuing what you want to do in this life, and talk a little bit about the healing that I have done the past few months and how that's been so transformative for me. So, I want to talk a little bit about why I've been so absent in doing my personal podcast and sharing. And there's a few reasons for that. Earlier in the year, I had a lot of health challenges that came up, and I had a lot of things that kind of made me pause and take a step back to really go into my healing and what was still lingering and what I needed to really purge so I could really take the next step. And one of the biggest things that I was noticing was this lack of self confidence, this lack of self worth, because that has been a very strong wound that I've had pretty much my whole life. And I was noticing that regardless of doing everything right and doing the healing work, doing, my spiritual practice, channeling, all that stuff, I was just getting stuck. And I felt like no matter what I was doing, I couldn't shift the mindset. And so I was meditating one day and I was really frustrated. I was like, you know what? How can I really just let this go? Because I know this mindset is so ingrained in me. Like it is in the fabric of my bones almost. And I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to purge it. I don't know how to really just let this go for good. And I knew that it was a very deeply subconscious belief. And that's why it was so difficult, because once more daily, I was doing the affirmations, I was shifting the energy, I was doing all the tips, but it was still there. It was still lingering deep beneath the surface. So I had actually been doing hypnosis sessions. I took a whole hypnosis course last year, and it was absolutely mind blowing. The information in that course, what I learned, and how it was so incredibly healing for those who needed to really release these deep rooted issues. And I was really called to do a session because I'd been performing the sessions for others. And then I just kind of took a step back because I was like, you know what? I need to focus on myself. And I retracted from my podcast. I retracted from a lot of my work. I was actually turning away sessions and such because I just knew this was a time for inner work. This was a time for me to get my poop in a group. And so I did this course. It was amazing, the information. And I was like, you know what? I would love to experience this for myself. However, I was having a hard time finding a regressionist that I trusted, that I felt comfortable with, because I know myself and I was like, this is gonna be vulnerable for me. I'm gonna probably cry. I'm gonna have this is gonna be very vulnerable. So for me, I had to find the right person. And eventually I did. And lo and behold, it was a really beautiful client of mine. And I was like, hey, you know what? You want to do this? You want to learn hypnosis? And it was amazing because my guides lined it all up, made it happen. So she took the training, and she was someone I trusted, I felt comfortable with. We had been known each other for quite some time. So it was perfect how it all just kind of orchestrated and worked out. And so I started these hypnosis sessions. And so I've done two of them so far. And these are based in Dolores Cannon's work. So if you're someone you're curious about this course, you want to learn more about it, go for it. It's an amazing style of hypnosis that allows you to go to very deep levels of trance, more than just an average hypnosis session. So she was finding, Dolores Cannon, who created this method, and developed it, that she was getting people so far into trance that they would completely go under to a space of past life. And when they would go to their past life, a lot of them would be able to actually totally take on the other personality of who they were in the past, to the point where some were speaking in a different language, where some would come up with an accent. It's amazing. So I've done a few of these hypnosis sessions for clients, and I can say it's absolutely amazing. But you have to be open, and you have to be willing, and you have to have the belief behind it, because once more, it's going to allow you, you have to be able to surrender, okay, for that to be effective. So I knew that going in, and I was like, okay, so now I get to experience it. I get to try it. And my first session was absolutely incredible. And so when she first regressed me, I was shown a past life that I had glimpsed before. So I do get a lot of past life healing and information when I meditate. And this one I had glimpsed before, and it was, I was a man and I was a farmer, and I would see these beautiful, lush fields. And I knew that that was like my happy place. That was my peaceful place. And the first things I started seeing was the fields, for one. I noticed what I was wearing, I noticed the surroundings, but the biggest thing was there was a little girl in the distance that was running toward me. And she had this beautiful, flowing golden hair. And I just like, I was obsessed in that life with my child. It was like that girl was my whole heart. And I would call her my golden miracle. And it was so beautiful because when she asked, like, okay, well, why do you call her your golden miracle? The explanation was that we had not been able to conceive, my wife and I at the time. And finally, she came along, and she was like this miracle child or rainbow baby, you could say. And she just had the most gorgeous golden hair. And so a lot in that life was about how much love I had for that child and her innocence and her purity and what she really symbolized. And there was a lot of extra details in there. I had a brother who I was really annoyed by. I had all these different details. It was so fascinating. So from there, she moved me into a next life where I was an actual guard. And it must have been like, I want to say more like medieval times. I wouldn't be 100% sure of the time frame, but I was in armor and I was stationed on the steps of the castle, and I was to stand on guard. And in that life, it was so fascinating. There was so much information that came through in that one that really resonated. And it was all about how I had felt in that life very useless, restless, like I can't do what I actually want to do. I'm stuck here watching life go by, and I can't actually engage in it because this is my station, this is my job. And I wasn't able to get married. There was something, some stipulation about that. And I always wanted to. There was like this want and desire to have a normal life. And here I was stuck on the sidelines, not being able to do any of it. And anyway, she moved me to a next scene where I was actually in battle. And the battle was disappointing to me. Even though we were victorious, I was very disappointed. I was like, wow, I thought I would feel more. I thought I would feel like, wow, this is amazing. I'm finally getting some action in my life. But I was once again disappointed and felt let down. And it was super interesting having that take. And then moving from there, she moved me forward in life, and I was an older man. I wasn't old, but I'd say like middle age, maybe in my 40s, or yeah, I'd say 40s. And that point in the life, it was absolutely fascinating because I could feel that something had gone wrong with my leg. So my left leg, something was happened. Like I'd broken my leg or some event had happened and it never healed right. And I could physically feel the sensations. It was amazing. So something had happened and it had inhibited me from doing my job. So I was dismissed. I was let go, so to speak. And I was the happiest person ever. So the whole time throughout that space, I was so joyful. I felt so grateful because it was a way out for me. And I was able to get married. I was able to have a child. And I'd even gotten a little fat. And it was so funny because the whole thing, listening back, was, just how he enjoyed his life and took everything to the fullest degree. So it was incredible to kind of get that awareness in that lifetime. And so from there, she moved me on to the next scene, and I was actually out of the body and I was in soul form on the other side. And I was looking back at the body that of the guard. And it was so cute because I kept saying, my soul self kept saying, wow, that was a good one. That was a good one. I lived life. I enjoyed myself. I got a little fat, but it was so worth it. And it was so funny just listening back to the recording because there was so much to it that really resonated with me about living life to the full. So from there, we went into another life and we actually went through 4 lives in this one session. It was incredible. My higher self really wanted me to see all these different things and how it was all connected to what I was currently shifting through. So from there, I went to a life as a Celtic woman. And I believe I must have been higher up in some sort of societal stage. I think I must have been a daughter of someone important. That's kind of what I felt. And I knew that I had some sort of authority in that life, but I was young. So the first time I went into the life, I was on this beach, this cliffside beach, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And I would say it was probably Ireland or somewhere around there. And all I could feel was like, oh, finally my solace, my home, the ocean. Like it was like where I could go to escape and just be myself. And I kept talking about that, how I needed to be myself. And this was the only place I could be myself was when I was alone on the cliffside, being with the ocean, and how I felt so much pressure as a daughter of someone important and the obligations that I had. And I talked a lot about how I actually wanted to be a man because I would watch the men. I'd watch how different their roles were, how they had more opportunity. They could learn how to fight, they could sail the sea. And supposedly I wasn't allowed. So whether that was because of, the gender of, me, whether I was because I was a woman or whether it was because I was someone more important, I had duties to fulfill in that space. And so I just felt a lot of resentment and I felt a lot of anger and frustration that I was withheld from doing things that I personally really wanted to do. And it was super interesting because as soon as we went into the life, my bladder started hurting. Like I felt so much pain in my bladder. And it was so interesting because she talked about that as well, how she constantly suffered with pains in the bladder vicinity and how she wouldn't tell anyone and how she just lived with it. And it was so fascinating to hear that. So then we move to the next scene. And in the next scene of that life, I'm now older and I'm in this tent and I'm actually learning how to fight. So I had this sword in my hand and I was exhilarated. I was feeling so phenomenal. I was so excited that I was learning how to defend myself. I was learning how to do something that I wanted to do. And I was actually fighting with this man, and he was training me, but it was like in the dead of night. So nobody would know. And it came out that I was like in love with this man. I was entranced by this man, and he had agreed to train me in secret so I could learn. And so I went through this amazing scene where all I could talk about was how in love I was with him, how amazing he was, and how excited I was that I finally had this opportunity to learn something and do something that was strictly for me. So from there, we moved to the next scene. And the next scene was actually quite devastating because in that life, I was in the process of giving birth and I was crying. I was so upset and I did not want to have a child because I was so concerned about birthing a child into this world that I lived in and how it would grow up in that world, how what suffering it would see. And I just didn't want that for my child. And then it came to light that my husband wasn't there, that I had actually married the guy who was training me, and he wasn't present at the birth. And it came out that he had somehow passed. So I wasn't really sure exactly of how the passing happened, but regardless, he was absent and I was in mourning because here I was birthing this child and my husband was gone. I was alone and I kept saying how alone I felt and how was I going to do this? How was I going to live life without him? He was the only one who saw me. He was the only one who fulfilled my heart and actually saw who I was. And there was this huge, overwhelming loss that I felt. Um, and it was really sad because at the end of the lifetime, supposedly I went and drowned myself, which is so sad. It was such a sad one to listen back to of how it ended. But it gave me a lot of clarity in that lifetime. Then from the last one that I then went into, it was a very brief, quick scene essentially. And I knew I was a Scottish warrior. I was a big, broad man. I could feel like how amazing it felt to be strong and a guy. And it was really an interesting experience. It was very sensory. And essentially, it was this conversation that took place that I was this tough warrior. I only was going to be tough. I wouldn't open up my heart to anybody. I was going to raise my children, my sons, in the same way where life is tough, life is hard. You don't get to be privileged in any way, and you need to protect yourself at every turn. You have to keep yourself hard hearted. And it was a really quick, brief, probably 5-minute scene that we went through until I was pulled out. And then we went through the healing process where we actually speak to the higher self and ask the higher self the purpose of these lives and why they chose to show you that lifetime and getting that information that could help heal what you're currently moving through. So from there, we regress to my soul self and we're able to have a conversation with my higher self and ask those questions. I also had written up some questions that I wanted to ask my higher self for more clarity. So, what really came through was this first life in the farmer. The purpose was to show me two things. And number one was the innocence aspect, that young girl who was running towards me, how beautiful she was, how innocent she was, how she was this golden miracle to my life. And they wanted me to see that because they wanted to remind me of my own innocence and how I had failed to see it, how I had always thought that I was wrong in some way, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't pure enough, that I had made mistakes. And they kept saying that this young girl was to mirror to me my own innocence. And the next aspect of that was the relationship between the farmer and his brother, who he disliked. And in the lifetime, he had to kind of provide for him. He had to provide him shelter and look after him. And there was resentment there of having to put aside his wants, his needs to cater to someone else. And so it was really interesting to see how that applied to myself as well in my current lifetime, because that is something I have felt, is that I overgive. I have given so much that I keep nothing for myself. And it's not that maybe I was a bit resentful, but it was more like, when do I get to be looking after? Like, when do I get a turn? When can I get to actually achieve my dreams and get what I need as well, you know? So it really felt like I had been kind of suppressed and not acknowledged in my life the way I felt I needed to be and wanted to be and desired to be. So that was really interesting. From there, what was really intentional about the guard's life was essentially living your life to the full and making things happen, making shifts happen that allow you to take control of your life and live it well. And it really spoke to me because I've really lived my whole life with this mentality of work, 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 and then maybe I get to play, and then maybe I get to think about myself. So once more, it was like, don't let life just pass you by. And that's why I was feeling restless. I was feeling upset, was because I didn't have the opportunity to really grab hold of life and make it what I wanted it to be and enjoy every single day and live life to the full. So that was essentially the big reason of why they showed me the guard's life. Then from there, with the Celtic woman, that as well really showed me where I'd always felt a little bit suppressed as a woman. And growing up in the religious organization that did come through quite a bit, especially when I left and started seeing how women were treated differently, how I wasn't given the same respect and admiration and ability to move forward. So that was really interesting. And that really resonated with me of where I kept feeling like, wow, I'd just rather be a man. I'd rather be able to do what I want to do. And where that resentment had actually harbored and manifested into a physical issue, which was the bladder. And hopefully, this isn't too TMI, but I had massively suffered with bladder infections my whole life. And I always wondered, why is this such a reoccurring issue for me? Why have I always had this ever since I was young? And it really, really showed me how this was actually a continuation from that past life and how that was coming up in this one to clear and heal. So at that point, there was a lot that came through to help me heal and to release that physical issue, which I'm really happy to say has resolved itself since the session. So with the Celtic woman, there also was this um, awareness of being seen and how I had felt the same way, where it was like, I don't feel like anyone sees me, actually sees my soul, and loves me fully for who I am. And it was so interesting how that played out in that lifetime where she did meet her husband, who was the only one she felt really resonated with her, really saw her and accepted her and loved her for who she was. And that really resonated as well because it very much echoed my story with my partner and meeting him and how that experience had been very similar. It was so eye opening for me to actually see someone in my life who saw me, who accepted me, and flaws and all, and absolutely unconditionally loved me, and how that was such an eye opening experience. And from there, the grief of losing that, the grief that was really actually lingering in me to that day. So there was a lot of purging of grief in that session because of that lifetime and letting go of that grief and releasing it fully. And it was really interesting because with the Scottish warrior, their whole reason for showing me that was to show the hard-heartedness and how when we experience deep grief, that's what we want to do. We want to close off our hearts. We want to shield ourselves. We want to protect ourselves from ever having that experience again. But what was so interesting was they were showing me the results of that. How this Scottish warrior was very hard hearted, did not enjoy his life. It was all about duty. It was all about protecting himself and being completely closed off to living and experiencing a fulfilling life. So my higher self kept saying, like, that's not the road you want to take. Yes, you've been hurt in your past, but now it's time to absolve yourself of this grief because the hurt and the grief is what is holding you back from being your full expression of self, from you actually being able to live your life in a fulfilling way. So that session was so incredible and really helped change things radically for me because it helped me realize in a deep way just how much I had been carrying and how much I had to release, even just past life wise. So, this clearing was absolutely incredible and helped me start to see myself differently, helped me really see the challenges that I was going through, even in a subconscious way, and really start working on them. So, this I felt was important to share because I feel like so many of us right now are being called to step into these leadership roles, this leadership of our lives to pursue what we need to pursue. And I was hoping sharing my experience with the hypnosis would help some of you realize just as much how much life is such a precious gift and we need to seize the moment. And that guard really stuck out to me that lifetime because he knew how to live life well. That first half of his life had all been about forfeiting his needs, not being able to actually participate in what he wanted to participate in, to live the life he wanted to live. And that's so much how I felt in my experience as well. I had watched so many others live their lives. I'd watched so many others achieve their goals, their successes, and I felt left out. I felt like I didn't get to experience that, that I had wasted some of those early years because I didn't take action. Now, what's interesting about that is my next hypnosis session, which was going through a lifetime where I was actually a monk. And this didn't surprise me at all. I had definitely glimpsed this one before as well, and I'd been seeing little scenes of me doing calligraphy. And what's crazy about that is my whole life I've been obsessed with literature. Like I love to do calligraphy. I did even as a young girl. I wanted to learn. I got all the pens, I got all the art. Like I loved that stuff. And that was in me. And so it didn't surprise me at all that that was what I was doing in this past life was doing all this transcribing and doing all of that work with the fancy letters and the fancy paints. And it was quite an interesting lifetime. So with that one, similarly, I was restrained from participating in things like marriage, and I had to abstain from certain things in life. And so, through that lifetime, keeping it brief, I also felt like I wasn't living life the way I should be. And there were things that I wanted to do, but I never let myself. I never let even my mind go there because I was so closed off to doing what I knew I needed to do. And if I did open myself up to such thoughts, that I would need to shame myself for that because it wasn't in alignment with what I was being told was my purpose in life, with what I was being told I needed to do, and what I should do with my life and my purpose. And so I would actually beat myself. I would shame myself. I did all sorts of horrific things to myself because I felt I was worthy of punishment because I even had such desires. So it really was incredible because when the soul left the body and we were talking with my soul about that life experience, it was saying how I didn't learn my lesson in that lifetime and that I had not taken the action that I needed to take, that I had withheld myself from doing anything that I truly desired in that lifetime. And to learn that despite the outer experience that tells you you can't, that you shouldn't, that you're not allowed, that that's not your purpose here, to take action according to your soul's wisdom and soul's guidance. So that lifetime, my soul felt a little disappointed because I didn't in that life take those actions I needed to. So that really resonated as well when it comes to my dreams and my career and moving forward and taking the actions I've needed to take. And that was something that I found really resonant, of course, in the first half of my life because once more, I didn't take action until I met a breaking point. And then I did. I finally listened, but it took me a few years to finally go, you know what? I can't go along with this belief system. It's not who I am. And I need to take the action to make my life fulfilling, to be true to myself, even if it hurts other people, even if they say I can't, even if they say I'm going to be damned, whatever the case is. And so that really stuck with me as well and gave me that amazing reminder to take the actions necessary when I need to and to listen to what I need to do as opposed to what I should do. And I talk a lot about that in my energy updates because it's so true. A lot of us, once more, get sidetracked by what we feel we should do as opposed to what we need to actually do to fulfill ourselves. So, why I'm sharing all of this is exactly that. Where have we been feeling stuck? Where have we been feeling like we can't move forward in our dreams? Maybe we've been feeling discouraged, run down, like it's impossible to reveal our true selves and live a fulfilling experience. And I'm hoping that these little glimpses into my past lives can help you guys as well open up your eyes to what you're currently experiencing and what you're being called to actually shift through now. So don't waste your time. Take the actions you need to take and remove any resentments that stand in the way. Remove any hurts and grief that stand in your way. It's very pivotal right now, especially in this time, that we start taking the loving actions that we need to take to accomplish what it is we want to accomplish in our lives. So, the past while, this has been super healing for me. It has really made me see where I have lacked confidence in myself, where I felt like a failure in my career, in my work, because it hasn't taken off the way I wanted it to. And it hasn't looked the way I have wanted it to. And I feel like it's important that I am vulnerable with this. Long as I've been doing this work, it hasn't gotten to the point where I've been able to fully support myself on this career. And it hasn't gotten to that point where I've been able to get a big audience, a big reach year after year. And that has really discouraged me in a lot of ways. And it is really, I've taken it personally. I've taken it to heart. I haven't allowed myself to see my successes and see the growth and give myself the appropriate viewpoint and perspective of it and recognize that things take time and that there isn't a timeline that I need to abide by, even though I think there is. And I talked about this on my update as well this past week, where it's all about that. Like, remove timelines, remove this like ridiculous notion that you have for your life that you can't enjoy your life until you reach this goal. You can't enjoy your life until you're at this point. And so I had let my discouragement because of my own expectations and unrealistic expectations to make me step back. And that's exactly what I did this past year was I stepped back from my dream. I took a break from my dream. I retracted from my dream. I was so burned out that I started resenting my dream and how it never came true, even though I'd put so much effort and time and energy into it. And what's come up recently was this confusion because I was like, what do I want to do with this? Like, I've invested so much time and energy and education and love and passion into what I do. And I've known it's not for nothing. I love what I do. I am passionate about what I do. But is it going to be feasible for me to continue? And that devastated me because there was grief around that. Like, is this another dream that's failed, that won't take off, that won't continue? And once more, I haven't really said any of this aloud to people, but this is how I felt this past year was my efforts were for nothing. And shifting that has been hard. And it just came to me this past few weeks where we've had such a focus on the heart and healing the heart and removing the hurt that's standing in the way of going for what we really want. And I got that advice too. It was like, go to your heart, listen to your heart. What does your heart actually want? And how can you have that conversation with your soul and with your heart to identify what it is you truly need to do? What is you truly desire for yourself in your life? And forget the rest, forget the expectations, forget what it needs to look like. What do you need to do to be fulfilled? So, I did that. I spent some time meditating with my heart, and it was actually quite shocking what came through and how quickly it came through. I had my answer in like 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, this was quick. All I needed to do was sit with myself and listen. And how often do we forget to do that? How often do we forget to actually tune into ourselves and listen to the heart and listen to what it needs and follow through on that? So, what came through for me was that I want to do this. I want to create this beautiful community where I can help others, where I can help you in your journey in some form or capacity. And it just came up as like, go back, do your podcasts, go back, do your writing, go back, do those things because you love it and you want to help. And that gives you fulfillment. And that was what my heart was saying. So I got so much about following through, listening, and let it take the time it takes, but don't give up. So I feel like so many of us need this message right now. If things have been going slowly, if things haven't been taking off the way you feel they should, if things aren't looking the way you feel they should, don't give up. Clear the wounds in your heart that make you think it's not possible. Clear the wounding in yourself that says you're a failure because you haven't made it yet. Clear that path of your heart and get incredibly focused on what it is you desire to do in this life. And don't let anything hold you back. Why hold back? If this is your dream, if this is what you know in your heart, in your soul that you are meant to be doing, why aren't you doing it? Why are you letting other people dictate your journey? Why are you letting the numbers on a screen dictate your worth, your value, your ability, your capability? So I'm just hearing we need to do what we need to do to shut out any of that outside noise that is making us feel small, that is making us feel insignificant, that we can't take those steps and live an amazing life. The other thing I feel really called to talk about is those who are feeling stuck right now. Okay. What is your excuse? Okay. You need to get clear on that path and take action. Don't be like the monk in that lifetime. Take the action you need to take and fulfill your life purpose. Learn the lessons you need to learn and learn that you are here to be who you are. Okay. Think of it this way too. This is like one of the first times in history for a lot of us where we are rising out of suppression, where we are free to actually be ourselves and share ourselves with this world. So, do you want to let small minded thinking sabotage your greatness? Do you want to look back at the end of this lifetime and feel disappointment because you didn't fulfill your dream regardless of external circumstance? And I just keep hearing take action from love. What is the most loving thing for you to do? What is most loving for your life? And can you have the bravery, the courage to step up and step into that? We are needing to embody this Leo energy, this courage, this strength to reveal who we are. This is what our hearts need and deserve, my friends. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to showcase who you are in whatever capacity. Don't let anything hold you back from showcasing you. You are beautiful. You are meant to be you. How can you express yourself in this world? Don't let anything, anything stop you. So I just keep hearing a lot of us are falling victim to victim mindsets that say, oh, I can't. Someone told me I'm not good enough. Someone told me that's not the path for me. That's an excuse. Do you think it's the path for you? Have you listened to the portal of your heart? Have you tuned into your soul? That's where the action comes. That's where the truth is. It lies inside you, not outside of you. So that's what I had to do. I had to go to my source. I had to go to my heart and go, okay, what is it that I need to be doing? What is it that I desire to do? So don't get hung up by what other people say you should do. Take action, do what you need to do, right? And it just makes me keep thinking of that Celtic woman and her experience. She had to do what she wanted in secret. And that was the other thing my higher self mentioned. It was like, you're not meant to be hiding away anymore. And I find myself doing that. I love to hibernate. I like to hide. I like to feel comfortable in my comfort zone. Even today, it was hard for me to be like, okay, we're going to do a podcast. We're going to do it. We're going to share. And my heart was like, oh, okay. I had to kind of like hype myself up to do it. But the biggest thing is I'm doing it. I'm showing up. I'm sharing. And I hope some of you will be able to resonate with it. But I don't have to be kept secret anymore. I don't have to hide who I am anymore. I get to express who I am. And that's a privilege. That's a privilege that I'm going to take, that I'm going to take advantage of in this lifetime. And I'm going to live my life well, just like that guard. I'm going to be like, you know what? For that half of my life, I wasn't able to. So, hell yeah, I'm going to seize the day. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And realizing how we all have a choice to live an empowered life or to live a life that is disempowering. That is our choice every single day. Are we going to take the leadership role, or are we going to leave life out of our hands and go, okay, life, you take me where you need to go. I'm not going to direct anything. I'm not going to go ahead unless I get the okay. Are you waiting for permission to live a good life? Are you waiting for abundance to show up for you? You got to take it. This is something that has been a huge revelation to me because I, as well, have fallen victim to that mindset where it's like, oh, when I work hard enough, when I'm at this point of worthiness, then I get to experience a good life. Then I get to enjoy it. Eh. No, we need to be seizing life by the horns. We need to be taking it and claiming it for ourselves. So, how are you going to claim life today? So, with this podcast today, I just want to bring attention to your dreams. What is it that you really want to do? Who is it you really want to be? If your life isn't fulfilling you right now, get clear. What are those areas for me that I'm not being fulfilled in? And how can I take the action I need to take and have the courage to take those steps to change it? I can change my life at any time. I get to do what is best for me, and I deserve that. A session I did recently was absolutely phenomenal because it helped me realize how when we claim leadership of our lives, we're claiming our right to exist. We're claiming our right to be deserving. And when we take those actions, we are showing up for ourselves. We are showing ourselves and our inner children that we are worthy. So, one of the big things that I've been working on is feeling deserving, feeling worthy of goodness in my life. And what has kept coming up is exactly this. Well, what are the actions you can take that make you feel that way and not receiving it necessarily from others, but from yourself? So, what is a gift that you can give yourself every single day and go, yeah, I'm worthy of that? So, an example of that was, making your bed every day, cleaning your room every day, having a sacred space every day, making sure that when you've done that, you're like, wow, I did that for me. So I have a clean, neat space to live. Another example of that is doing your workouts or doing some yoga or your meditation that day and going, yeah, that's what I need. And I'm going to do it just for me because I need it. And I deserve the time to have this experience. Right. And I just kept getting like practical things like feeding yourself regularly, feeding yourself a good home cooked meal. You deserve that. And every time you do it, you're showing yourself you deserve to have a healthy, good, nourishing meal. And I'm going to put in the time and effort it takes to make sure you get it. So, likewise, when it comes to your dreams, how can we start taking those actions and nourishing ourselves from those actions and going, you know what? I deserve this. So, regardless of what the outside world says, regardless of what other people's journeys are, I'm going to focus on me. This is my life. This is my journey. And I'm going to take every step I can. I'm going to take one step at a time and tell myself I deserve this. So, don't give up on your dreams. Maybe you've had to take a little bit of a side trip to come back to it. Just like me this past year, I've had to be derailed and learn all these lessons and do all this clearing and come back to finding my self worth before I could be like, okay, I'm ready to take the actions. And my first action is doing this podcast today to get back out into the world, to start putting myself back out there and being vulnerable and being me unapologetically. So, what are those small steps? What are those things you can do for yourself to make your dreams a reality? And I just keep hearing, don't wait. Now is the time. The energies are supporting us in this. Our hearts are ready to be seen. They're ready to be known, to be held, to be felt, to be expressed. So, what can you do to connect to that essence within yourself? So, I want to pull a card for us just to sum up this podcast today. So, I'm just going to do a little shuffle here with my card deck beside me and just get any final message we need. Oh, this is beautiful. It's the here and now card. So it says, the future does not exist and the past is gone. I focus on the present moment. I have confidence in life again because here now there is no danger. Everything happens when my soul is ready. I love this so much. So, once again, summing up that beautiful reminder for us, let it take as long as it needs to take. Trust the timing of your life. Trust life itself to be there for you. And one thing I just keep reminding myself of is that derailment, I'm not going to regret it because guess what? I learned so much this past year from being able to take that side trip, from taking a break and focusing on what I needed to focus on and healing what I needed to heal and trusting that the rest of the journey is going to be perfect for me. So, likewise, the rest of your journey is going to be perfect for you. You're going to learn so much through this process of advocating for yourself, for learning how to love yourself and love yourself so very well. So very well. Isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we all desire? To love ourselves and love our lives. So focus on right now. What is it you can do here and now? What is the action you can take today to fulfill yourself, to make yourself feel good, to advocate for your dreams, and to let go of anything that has hindered that journey, past or even future worries and concerns? They shouldn't exist right now. You're in the here, you're in the present, right? So stay in that present moment. And I just love this. Everything happens when my soul is ready. So don't be discouraged, my friends. If you have been once more feeling that way, feeling derailed from life, feeling like you've been let down by life, that you can't accomplish what you've been wanting to accomplish, don't beat yourself up. Trust the process. Trust your soul's wisdom. That's the best advice I can give you if you're in this space. Go to your soul. Have a conversation with your soul. Don't outsource your power and decisions anymore. Listen to what your heart needs, to what your soul needs. It is so amazing when we actually start working with our higher selves every day and how that really makes such a huge shift. That's one last thing I do feel called to talk about is exactly that. This amazing relationship that I felt kind of cut off from with my soul self. And since doing these hypnosis sessions, it just drives the belief further into me that we are so connected. We are oneness. We are not separate from anything or anyone, and that we do hold all the wisdom inside ourselves. So many times I've gone to my guides and been like, guides, what's the right decision? What should I do? And sometimes they won't tell me an answer. They'll pull back and be like, this is for you to figure out. This is for you to experience and feel into. And I feel like so many of us are at that point now, too. So if you haven't been feeling like clarity is coming or clarity has been coming in from your guides, even, trust, because you're needing to learn how to go inward, learning how to commune with your soul self, and recognizing the answers aren't outside of you, my friends. They are within you. So I really hope this podcast helps some of you today. If you're going through this process, if you are feeling down or discouraged, seize life. Take control. Don't waste another minute on small thoughts that don't build you up, that don't help you move forward in your life. You deserve so much more than that. You deserve to shine your light, my beautiful friend. You deserve to be here now. So don't hold yourself back any longer. Remove the excuses. You got this. So I'm sending you all so much love and light. Please let me know if you enjoyed the podcast. I love hearing from you guys. If you want to book a session with me, if you're needing a little extra healing and support, check out my offerings on my website, Rebecca.meisl.com, or connect me with me directly on my email, Rebecca.meisl@hotmail.com, and hopefully hear from you soon. Have a beautiful and blessed day, friends. Bye.